Good morning, Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty. We're here to discuss Silicon Valley real estate market in week number 41, and we'll come back to these URLs in a little bit. We're going to be talking about Bay Area County data, which are 4 counties: Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa, San Mateo County. We're going to be talking about only single-family homes initially, and we typically do a 5-week moving average or data set, and we're using the reference years of 2014 through 2021. What we're looking at here is DUI for each of the 4 counties. DUI is the ratio between existing supply and supply-demand ratio. Anything below 40 is considered to be a red-hot seller's marketplace. Anything above 80 is considered to be an ice-cold buyer's marketplace. Between 40 and 80 is a balanced marketplace. So you can see all 4 counties are in a balanced marketplace. Santa Clara County in the blue is doing the best at about 46 days of unsold inventory. The market seems slow because we have spent a lot of time down here at like 20 days of unsold inventory. So the market is more than twice as slow as it used to be, but it's still in relative terms a fairly strong marketplace. Right now, we'd sell everything on the marketplace in a month and a half. Now, obviously, not everything sells because of pricing, condition, location, all those types of items. But if everything was uniform, we would sell everything in 45 days. You can see the counties are clustered pretty close together, especially the remaining 3 counties, being Contra Costa County in the gray, San Mateo County in the yellow, Alameda County in the orange, and then doing the best is Santa Clara County in the blue. Here's the same data set going back to 2014. Moving on to magnitude of overbidding. This is how much sellers are getting above their asking price on average. You can see it's sort of almost an oxymoron, but here Santa Clara County is doing the worst. The other 3 counties, you can't see them. They're right on the axis of 100%. So on average, in 3 out of the 4 counties, sellers are getting exactly what they're asking. In Santa Clara County, we're slightly below that, but we're above 99%, somewhere around 99.4% of their asking price would be my guess. You can see that just a few months ago, basically at the beginning of April, Alameda County, I think it is. Yeah, Alameda County was doing the best at 119%. Santa Clara County was doing second best at 116%. So we're clearly in a different marketplace, but that's overbidding versus actual property values or seller's asking price. Same data set going back through 14. Now what we're looking at here is the weekly distribution of the sale price to list price ratio. And we're going back on this data only to October 11th. Most of the data is, you can see these are odd weeks, but they're October 4th, October 11th, every week from then. But then I also add on October the 15th. I'm not sure October 15th is showing up here, but all the data is clustered together down here and you can't see it. We'll come back to here, but in a nutshell, your best week ever was up here, the dotted red line, which was April 12th of this year. So just 6 months ago, we were having our best week ever. The worst week we ever had was back here on November 30th of 2001, shortly after the World Trade Center. The dotted lines are the oldest lines, then the dashed lines, and then the solid lines. And you can see all the solid lines are really clustered together, which is why I have both the red up hot arrow and the down blue cold arrow, basically indicating that the market is currently in a plateau. Here's the sale price of the different counties. Obviously, Contra Costa County is the cheapest of the 4 counties, followed by Alameda County, then Santa Clara County, and then finally San Mateo County. Notice the vertical separation between Santa Clara and San Mateo County. It basically got very close together, little exception here, but that's just transient. The bulk of the time here, it's much closer together since the pandemic. So basically what that's saying is Santa Clara County went up in value more than San Mateo County. And if you start looking at it, your other counties, Alameda County did particularly well. Contra Costa County really did not. So San Mateo County and Contra Costa County did not fare as well as far as price appreciation during the the pandemic, Santa Clara County and Alameda County did exceptionally well. Here now I'm adding in horizontal lines so you can come back and see when you first hit the price that we're currently at. And in the case of San Mateo County, their peak in 2019 is the same as the value now. Their peak in 2020 was higher. Almost all of 2021 and most of 2022 was higher than we are now. Most of the other counties comes back right up to about the April 1st timeframe. Alameda County is a little bit earlier. Santa Clara County is a little bit earlier. Contra Costa County is right on April the 1st. And this data only goes back to the 2019. Now what you're looking at here is the different components. Single family homes on the left, your 4 different counties, Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Contra Costa, and San Mateo County. And then all 4 counties combined, condos and townhouses on the right. So you can go and see how each one of your different counties is doing on the different benchmarks, and you can actually get the reading. So if you come down and look at something like DUI, I like using the DUI for 5 weeks instead of 1 week. 1 week you get a lot of bounce, but you can see all 4 counties improved by almost 1 day. Not a huge improvement. Remember, I say 5-day improvement or 5-day deterioration in 1 week is a shift in the marketplace. When you're less than 1 day, very stable. Santa Clara County increased by 0.2. Alameda County decreased by 0.8. Contra Costa did the biggest shift of 2.6 days lower this week than last week, and San Mateo County was a half day quicker this week than last week. Come down here to closings, you can see the appreciation. Typically, you would say 19% appreciation is fairly good for a 2-year period of time, but when you realize that number was significantly higher, that's why it's not so good. Here we'll go over the URLs. Here's what I call the root URL. That gets you to the YouTube archive. If you add in 2022 at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, you get to the live presentation. If you add in the letter H for handout, the year 2022, month 10, day 15, you get the handout. It is not posted. I actually started printing it at 8:41 this morning, and I had to stop it because it was taking forever. And that's just electronic PDF printer. So I don't know what happened. I'll go and get it posted hopefully later this evening, and then it will be up there for you. And if you want a specific episode, type in the green root URL, the year, the month, and the day, and you get directly to that episode. We're talking about week number 41. Do I have any questions from anybody? Not seeing any. And from this point on, if you have questions that come up, please interrupt as I'm going instead of holding the questions. Now what we're looking at is DUI for the entire Bay Area single family homes. That's the bolder dark blue line. You can see it slowed way down. And then in the month of July, it actually improved. Then basically since Labor Day, it's been deteriorating a little bit. But the last couple of days, last week, it's been turning around and improving slightly. The next thing that's important is the number of offers. That's in the orange line. You can see the huge impact of the end of the year holidays has. And then you can see we were climbing like we normally do. But instead of continuing to climb through, say, mid-May, we turned around basically on April the 1st and came down significantly instead of the sort of the summer plateau that we normally have. And then basically from July 4th through Labor Day, we improved slightly. But since Labor Day, we've been again going down fairly significantly as far as the number of offers accepted. And then the gray line is the inventory, and this is following the fairly normal pattern. It is a little bit up from the last couple years when we had a huge shortage, but you can see if you go back to 2019, we're on the same level of magnitude. But also interesting is it came up, and right about the middle of July was the peak inventory for the year. And then we've come down a little bit and sort of plateauing now at somewhere around 4,000 listings for the 4-county area. Santa Clara County, I know, is about 1,000. San Mateo County is about 550. So that means the other 2 counties have to be somewhere around 1,200 because they're roughly the same size. Now what we're doing is looking at the number of offers in the bold so you can see it a little bit better. So it's the same color, the orange, but I bolded out the line so it's easier to talk about. So, and then here is the active listings in the gray line, again, bolded out so we can see it a little bit more easily. And here is all 3 of them. And this is the data going back to 2014. Now here what I'm looking at is DUI for the 4 counties, single family homes, and I'm comparing it to their norm. The fastest years we ever had were down here, the red line, that's the 10 percentile, which is essentially the second fastest year. And then the second coolest year we had is the light blue up here. And the median for the 8 years of 2014 through 2021 is this thin gray black line. And the actual purple line is the real data. So you can see DUI went from the second best year we ever had rapidly through the median, rapidly through the worst year we've ever had, and significantly slower than the second worst year we had. Then it turned around and improved, caught up to the median. And basically the last couple of weeks, it went from the median to slightly above the second year. And the reason I'm saying it's second year is 10 percentile is basically 1 out of 8 years. And so you would have 1 year that was worse than the light blue year, but it sort of gives you a range. 80% of your years are between the two lines here. And so to be above that range, outside that range, clearly is indicating you're having an unusual year. Same data set going back to 2014. Now what I'm looking at here is simply the delta DUI. Delta DUI is the actual DUI minus the median DUI for that week. You can see that from basically June of 2020 all the way through about June of 2022. So for about a 2-year period of time, the DUI was much lower than the expected DUI. So you're down here. Because DUI, the lower the DUI, the faster the marketplace, that is indicative of a hot marketplace. Because it's a delta, it's, you're referencing it to the norm. So if the norm was a cold marketplace, it would just be hotter than a cold marketplace. So this is not defining a cold marketplace. It's just a tendency to be a hot marketplace with the blue, with the red, and a cold marketplace with the blue. And you can see basically starting as early as the end of February, the DUI started to climb, and then right around middle of April, maybe around April the 9th, it started to climb more rapidly. And then right around the middle of June, it even climbed more rapidly and became slower than it typically is. And then basically with July 4th, the market improved fairly dramatically and continued to improve through Labor Day. From Labor Day through September, it was sort of a plateau. And basically since the last week in September to now, the market again has been slowing down again. Same data set going back to 2014. Now we're looking at the DUI for each county that we saw actually earlier. So again, Santa Clara County is doing the best. The other 3 counties are fairly close together. Data set back to 2014. Here's the number of offers that are accepted. And you can see now we're comparing to norm. So you got the 10 percentile, the median, the black, and the red is the hottest 10%, when you would have had the most offers. So you can see that we were selling the most houses we basically ever had. 1 year would have been better, the year 2021, right after the pandemic. And then very rapidly, the demand dropped off, just like a lead balloon, boom. And then it came back a little bit, and now it's dropping off again. So we're significantly below the worst year, well, the second worst year we had. I keep saying the worst. 10 percentile is going to be the second worst year we had. Here's the same data set going back to 2014. Now what we're looking at is the percent. So you can see the San Mateo County is the smallest marketplace, where it's only representing about 12% of the 4 county areas combined. The other 3 counties are pretty close together right now. Alameda County is having the largest number of transactions on a percentage basis. And you can see Contra Costa County and Santa Clara County are pretty tightly, all 3 of these are really pretty tight, and they're pretty tight, which means they're roughly the same size. One interesting note that I have pointed out before is look at the end of the year holidays. In 2021 going into 2022, Contra Costa County started becoming a larger percentage of the total marketplace. It did the same thing at the end of 2019 going into 2020. It did the same thing where it went up compared to the other counties. Basically what that's saying is, for whatever reason, Contra Costa County isn't impacted by the end of the year holidays as much as the other 3 counties are. Same data set going back to 14, and you can see the peaks. Here's the Delta Delta offers. So you can see the huge spike down here for COVID shelter in place, and this comparing to normal. So now your end of the year holidays aren't going to show up here. So you can see 2019, 2020 selling a little bit less than we normally would do. Shelter in place was announced and we plummeted way down because we couldn't show houses. And again, a shortage of offers would be a cooling marketplace, which is why the narrow band of blue down here. And then shortly after, once we could start showing properties around May 1st, the market started to improve dramatically. And by July 1st, we were selling more homes than we typically do for basically everybody's how shelter needs change. So a lot more people came out into the marketplace and were looking to deal with shelter in place by buying a bigger house, buying a house further away from their work for whatever reason, getting out of an apartment building into a single family home. And we sold a lot more homes than we typically do. And then here you can see actually more like in even November of 2021, the number of offers started to become more reasonable. Then we went into 2022. The number of offers came back up. There was a shortage of supply. DUI was pretty low. You're selling about 350 more homes a week than you would expect. And then shortly around April the 9th, the number of offers dropped way down and continued to drop down until you got to July. The month of July, basically from July 4th through about Labor Day, the number of offers compared to normal, it was improving. Then right around the middle of September, it rolled over and we're now in the downward trend again. Same data set going back to 2014. This is the number of offers accepted. You can see the 3 counties that are roughly the same size are roughly right on top of one another, and historically they follow each other. San Mateo County is lower, not because it's a slower marketplace or anything else. It's just a smaller marketplace, so it doesn't have as many offers accepted, but the trend is basically the same. You can see the buyers normally come down at the end of the year. They normally go up like we did this year, but then there's this slow decline or almost plateau for the summer months, where this year it was just a straight down, and now we're coming down again. And normally we're not coming down until about the middle of November, getting ready for the end of the year holidays. The number of offers being accepted is what the real issue is that we're currently having. Same data set going back to 2014. Now we're looking at active inventory. Same concept. Red line is the least number of inventory that you'd expect, the 10 percentile. The blue is the 90 percentile, sort of the most inventory you'd expect. The median is right here on the gray. What's actually interesting is we actually have a slight shortage. We're well within the normal range, and we're actually fairly close to the median, but we're on the shorter side versus a surplus of inventory. So there's not a surplus of inventory out there right now in any of the counties. It's a lack of buyers, a lack of offers. Same data set going back to 2014. Now we're looking at the percent of active. And the first thing I'm going to point out is Alameda County and Contra Costa County are the same line historically. And that's because I could not find a reliable source for Contra Costa active listings using the right definition. So I assigned it equal to Alameda County. And now that I'm gathering the data, you can see there's a little bit of a separation, but not dramatic. It's a rough approximation. You can see again, as it would be expected, San Mateo County has the least amount of inventory because it's the smallest size, so it's the smallest percent, and the other 3 counties are relatively close together. You can see that earlier in 2021, Santa Clara County actually represented one of the highest percentages, had the highest percentage of the 4 counties, and then in 2022, it had the lowest, and again, it had the lowest other than San Mateo, and that San Mateo is always going to be the lowest just because it has less number of homes, it's a smaller geographical area. The other 3 are going to be roughly the same. Here's the same data set going back to 2014. Here's the Delta active. So this is where you'd expect the active to be. This data is only going back to October 4th. Most of my Delta data, I think all my Delta data except for DUI is only going back to the October 4th. I don't know what happened. It's all macros. It should all happen. The graph simply wasn't there. So I went back and grabbed and copied over last week's data. But you know, what it does is it tells you, and also the black horizontal line should be actually on your axis here of 0. It's a little bit bit higher up than it should be. What it's basically telling you is you're selling a little bit less active listings now for the 4 counties. And by a little bit less, you're talking about 250 less. And if you're talking about a number around 4,000 active listings, being 250 homes less than you'd expect really isn't a big deal. But there's not a surplus of inventory, which is, what a lot of people think. But there's clearly not a surplus of inventory compared to what we normally have. Same data set going back to 14. Now we're looking at the magnitude of overbidding. Here, the best way to look at this is do pair data. So the outer two blue lines are your 2.5 percentile and your 97.5 percentile. So basically all your homes are between those two amounts of overbidding. And the reason I do that is if someone reports a sale price or a list price incorrectly, the ratio goes out by a factor of 10, 20, 100 or 1,000. That really impacts the data. So by dropping off 2% of the data on both ends, I get reliable, basically quasi-maximums or quasi-minimums. And that's the purpose of the blue lines. Then the gray lines, paired gray lines, are 10 percentile and 90 percentile. So 80% of your transactions are between those two lines. And then a lot of statisticians look at the 25 percentile, look at quadrants, so 25 percentile and 75 percentile. And so 50% of your homes are between this tight range. So, that says quite a bit when I don't know what the number actually is. It's close to 96% here and 99%. When 50% of your sellers are getting between 96 and 99% of their asking price, that tells you something. And then on the median is the dark green line that is unpaired, and the dashed line is the average. And that's why on overbidding, I typically follow the average. Is we've been at 100% now for quite a while on the median, and you really don't see any indication of shifts in the marketplace, where if you look at any other line, you can see what the market's really doing. Same data set going back to 2014. And again, this is Delta data. So for this week, I only have the data going back through 14. So I'm missing 1 week of data. So I apologize for that. And again, what you do is you take the magnitude of overbidding for the 4 counties, subtract the median expected overbidding, and plot where you expect to be. And this is using the median for that 8-year period of time in 2014 through 2021. Right now, we're getting about 1.25% less overbidding than you would expect based on that 5-year average. And so you can see earlier this year, you were way up, getting 10% more than you would expect. And you can see historically, you spend some time on both sides of what you'd expect to get. Same data set going back through 14, and you can see the both sides here better. Here's the magnitude of overbidding for each of the 4 counties. And the data is here, and this now is just magnitude. So this is current data all the way up through midnight last night. You can see Santa Clara County is below the 100 percentile. The other 3 counties that is hard to see is right on the black line. The black line is when you're getting exactly your asking price. And you can see how rapidly the decline has been, but you can also see how we've now gotten here and we basically plateaued, and we're not getting dramatically lower than asking price. Same data set going back to 14. Notice how you don't go negative on this sale price to list price ratio. Here is the delta overbidding. Here I have data clearly through the 11th and most likely through midnight last night. So this is your delta overbidding. So you're getting less overbidding than you'd expect in Santa Clara County. The other 3 counties are getting exactly the amount of overbidding you'd expect to have at 100%. When you're above your expectations, you're in a hotter marketplace. When you're below, you're in a cooler marketplace. You can see Contra Costa County slowed down fairly early compared to the other counties, and I'm not sure why that would have been. And again, you can see Contra Costa being sort of contradictory. Now we're looking at the weekly distribution. Here what you have is the best week we ever had, which was April 12th of 2022. Keep in mind, for those that have been following me for a while, I was saying March 26th before. March 26th is when you look at just single family homes in San Mateo County and Santa Clara County. When you bring in Alameda County and Contra Costa County, and mostly Contra Costa County, that slowed down from the 26th to April the 12th, which is one of the reasons why you have to look at what's happening in the micro market, not just the county, but the actual micro market of where you're looking, because shifts happen at different times. The degree of overbidding, the DUI, all that is different in each different micro micro market area, which is why I've always criticized Bay Area data. This is my emphasis of Bay Area data, but it's only 4 counties. Bay Area data in the media includes 9 counties. When you talk about that, it becomes a hodgepodge and it doesn't tell you what's happening in any one area. The 4 counties I picked are all contiguous. They're very similar to each other in a lot of ways, and they tend to behave similarly. So this gives you an overview, and then you dive down into the individual county level, which is why I provide the county level. And then once you look at the county level, you then dive down even further into the micro market area. And we obviously don't have the time to do that every week. Your best week ever is April 12th of this year. Your worst week ever was November 30th of 2021. The current week is the 11th, which is basically back on Tuesday, the purple line. And then a year ago, you were up here. And the reason on the red arrows here is as we start going into the next slides, you'll see the dotted lines getting added month after month and then week after week is improving when the red line's showing. When a blue line shows, you'll notice that the line is added lower and lower. When both the red and the blue line are shown, you really see there's no change. So here we go with 11 months. You can see the improvement, 10 months, the improvement, 9 months sort of stable, 8 months an improvement, 7 months, huge improvement, 6 months, a little bit of improvement. Now we're balanced. Now we're coming down, 4, 3, 2. Now we're into weekly. The dashed is weekly data 10 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, 8, 7. And now you're going to start seeing there's very little change. Look how little change there was there. The red line should be coming back. There it finally is. You're not even seeing the change. And the 11th data is up there in the purple line, even though I'm missing the slide that shows it by itself. Moving on to the frequency of overbidding. This is how common is overbidding. The blue line on the top is sellers getting more than their asking price. The orange line is sellers getting less than their asking price, and the gray line is sellers getting exactly their asking price. Same data set going back to 2014. Here is all 4 counties. So you can see now Contra Costa County is doing the least well with only about 37% of the sellers getting more than their asking price, followed by Santa Clara County at somewhere around 42% of the sellers getting more than their asking price, San Mateo at about 47%, and doing the best is Alameda County with about 51% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. You can see how they were all clustered up here before the huge slowdown. You can see how they've all come down roughly the same. Contra Costa County the most, Alameda the least, but again, they're looking like they're about ready to cluster together. Same data set going back through 2014. Here's the delta of overbidding, and here I actually labeled it because I really caught it earlier. It is only through October the 4th, but you can see that as the market comes down below where you'd expect the amount of overbidding to be, you have a cooling marketplace. When you're above, you have a hotter marketplace. Same data set going back through 14. Now we're looking at sold price. Same concept that we had earlier where you have 2.5%, 97.5% to get rid of data entry errors. So this is basically my max. This is basically my min. Then you come into the gray lines, 10 percentile down at the bottom, 90 percentile up here at the top. Then you have quadrants of 25 percentile and 75 percentile. So 50% of your homes sell between these two numbers. This is what the median is, and the solid green line and the dotted green line is your average. I put the average in there just because for sometimes you need it. Some people do quote the average. The average is going to almost always be higher than the median when it's talking about sale price of homes. Same data set 2014. Now you're looking at the median of the 4 counties, added in the horizontal line to get back to give you a reference of when they first hit that area. Again, most of the areas are basically April 1st of 2021 pricing now. San Mateo County is clearly back in 2020, and you could even say it's back to the peak pricing in 2019. The reason I don't go peak pricing, it's very hard to determine what peak price is. It's much easier to determine what the value value is when you have a range to have time to have several closed escrows and get an idea what the price is. That's just the median. The median can shift, but it's an indication of where property values are. Same data set going back to 2014. I added in the highlight here. The blue is the lowest number of offers accepted. This is the number of offers accepted. We're looking at San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Contra Costa County. We're looking at single-family homes and condos and townhouses, and we're saying it's the 10th worst year, lowest number of offers. I actually have 13 years up here, but I'm only going back 10. You know, having a 13-year reference is pretty weird, but I'm able to fit 13 years on, so I have it all up there. The yellow are just honorable mentions that are close, but these are the lowest number of offers that we've had accepted. These are the highest number of offers we've had accepted, and you can see now the current is right here. So 666 offers accepted is by far the lowest. The previous low was 875. The week before was 656, with 900 being the lowest. 625 with 972 being the lowest. Then here we have 593 currently, where the lowest is 1,019. And this is where the honorable mention comes in here, because if you go back for 13 years, you drop down to 962, but still 593 is significantly lower. So you can see not only are we having the 10th slowest year number of offers accepted out of the last 10 years, it's significantly slower. So the buyers have clearly just gone away. Now we're going to be talking about blended data. Blended data is San Mateo and Santa Clara County data only, single family homes and also townhouse condos, not combined, but separate, still the 5-week moving average. Here's DUI for the different micro market areas, single family homes for both counties on the top, condos for both counties on the bottom. And what you can see here is on the left-hand side is May of 2014. Clearly after the peak of the marketplace, which, you know, argumentatively could be sometime in February through April. It was clearly before April the 9th. That would be the latest. The earliest would probably be right around the end of February. So somewhere in there, depending on what you want to use as your definition of the market changing. This has clearly cooled some, but this is the hottest. Notice how red the DUI is. The redder the swash is, the lower the DUI for that area was. And you can see we lightened up, then we started getting darker. And then I would actually even argue we'd lightened up again right through here on around the 8th of October. And I would say that the 15th through last night at midnight is again darker than the last couple weeks. So we are improving, but we're clearly a lot less hot now than we were back in May, and even, well, we're roughly the same as we were in June timeframe. Here's my heat map, so you can look at the actual numbers and then you plot it out. So you can see a fair amount of the Silicon Valley area is in red. Only one area is in blue. Half the area is in white, no color, which is between 42.5 and 77.5. Half the areas are below 42.5, so there's some shade of pink, where you might be here in Milpitas, North Valley, Berryessa at 41, very light shade of pink, or you could be down here in Cupertino, Sunnyvale at 32 days, where it's becoming a pretty noticeable shade of pink. Nobody is approaching the 7 days of unsold inventory when you're saturated red, which is why it's a pink in color. Now this is the magnitude of overbidding. Remember, magnitude requires sale price, so it's delayed by 5 weeks, so it's less indicative of what the market's doing right now. You have one area, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, actually two areas. Cupertino, Sunnyvale, you can actually see the red a little bit. San Mateo County North is going to be a slight pink. And if I look at it long enough, I can sort of see the square box showing the color here. But when you're going from 101.5 to 102, 0.5% of pink shading is not very much, and it's pretty hard to pick it up. Most of the areas are no color at all, which means you're between 99 and 101.5%. So basically right on either side of 100% gets no coloring. Here's the frequency of overbidding. How common is overbidding? No color here is 33 to 50%. You can see down in Morgan Hill, only 29% or 28% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. If you go up the San Mateo County coast, it's 29%. 39%. The expensive areas in San Mateo County are 31%. But on the flip side, San Mateo County North, 58% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. Cupertino, Sunnyvale, 55% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. Now, here color has nothing to do with the heat, but simply the price. I assign the price based on the median, which is the middle number. The number to the left is the cheapest 10 percentile in that particular area. The number to the right is the most expensive. In South County, 80% of the homes are essentially between $900,000 and $2 million. So you got a range of 1.1 million where 80% of your homes happen. Or we could pick Campbell, where the median price is 1.7, the low end is 1.3, the high end is 2.4. There you got a $1.1 million range with the median being 1.7. Now what you're looking at is the different micro market areas, single families on top, condos and townhouses on the bottom, both counties. And you're looking at what the conditions are. What's the DUI? DUI right off the bat, you can see it has a fair amount of pink, and then you can see the raw count. The magnitude of overbidding, it takes about 5 weeks for the magnitude of overbidding to come in. This is where the market was 5 weeks ago. Frequency of overbidding takes even longer because a buyer may still be willing to overbid, but instead of overbidding 18% like they were earlier this year, they overbid by 1%. That still counts as a frequency of overbidding. And then you have the price. So you can pick whatever micro market area you're interested in, knowing what the conditions are, or you can come over here and pick the price range that you're in and find out what conditions you're going to experience out there in the marketplace. Here's the different key indicators broken down by the 4 components: Santa Clara County single family, San Mateo single family, Santa Clara County condo townhouses, and the Bay City townhouses. And I did that because the townhouses in Half Moon Bay and Pacifica, there's not that many of them. And so when they do show up, they skew data. And the purpose of data is to try to understand what the market's doing, not to know what's happening in a little niche. I felt that the Bay City's market was more representative of what the marketplace was doing than the entire county data. So you can see the shortage of inventory in Santa Clara County. We only have 75% of the expected inventory. In San Mateo County, you actually have a surplus of about 20%. They're opposite directions. Santa Clara County has a shortage of 25%. San Mateo County has a surplus of 20%. If buyers would shift between the two, they would balance right out. Santa Clara County condos have the surplus of 20%, and Bay Cities has a huge surplus, but that's really just nominally. There was a lot of housing being built on condos, high density, multi-story in the Bay Cities, and so that's impacting the resale market now. And eventually, in another year or two, the median for my bench years will be more after that huge influx of inventory, and these numbers will become more reasonable. In that case, the DUI is a better indicator. You can see Santa Clara County 45 days, San Mateo County 51, Santa Clara County condos 54, and Bay Cities, even though they claim to have a huge surplus, it's 51 days. So there's not really a huge surplus because your DUI is in balance. The demand has come up, which is why they built the houses. And then you have the overbidding. Everybody's very close to 100%. Frequency of overbidding, basically right in the 40 percentile range. So 40% of the sellers are getting more than they're asking for most of the micro market areas. And then appreciation. This is actually pretty interesting. This is the appreciation over the entire calendar year 2020. And you can see in 2021, we had 25% appreciation in single family homes. In 2022, we had 40% appreciation. But now in 2022, we're only at 18% and 4%. So we've basically in San Mateo County wiped out the last 2 years of appreciation. We're back to the pricing we were in 2020. In Santa Clara County, we're back somewhere where we were in 2021. Condos and townhouses didn't go up as much, and they also have come back down. The Bay Cities is actually lower now, median price, not necessarily property value. Median price is now 4% lower than it was in 2020. This is the appreciation for each of the years. Here's where the peaks were. So you can see the peaks were mostly 40 to 60 percentile, and now you can see you're in the teens for most of the appreciation, and that's using the entire 2020 calendar year for the reference year to calculate the appreciation rate. And that's total appreciation rate, not compounded appreciation or anything. So over the entire time frame, you've had 17% appreciation, not 17% each year. This is not a direct comparison, apples and apples comparisons, because October data isn't available until November the 5th, because I need 4 days in November to get 35 days starting on October the 1st. We're only through the 15th, we're only on the 15th now, so the data's through the 14th at midnight, but it gives you some idea. I'm comparing November 5th of these past years to basically October 15th of this year. Inventory 900. Inventory will go down some. Will it get down to 500? I doubt it, but it's in line with a lot of your other years. DUI 45, clearly higher than the last 2 years, but in line with several of these years back here. Many of these years are lower. 35 days is definitely lower than 45, but noteworthy 2018 and 2019 were basically the same order of magnitude. If you go back to 2010 and 2008 and 7, you had significantly higher numbers, and even 6 and 5 were significantly higher. So it's all within the realm of where you'd expect it to be. 45 days is sort of a balanced marketplace, favoring sellers more than favoring buyers. 40 to 80 is the range. It's not, you don't turn on a light switch, but it's more of a graduated thing. The number of sales, 752 sales. That is really, in my opinion, the story, because if you look back here, you have to come all the way back to 2007 to get the same order of magnitude, and you're at 738. The number of sales will tend to decrease. So this year, when we get to November 5th, could be the lowest number of sales in the 20 years that I have up here. I also have data offsite from 2002 back to 1998, I believe. And I'm pretty confident, I'll try to remember to look for next week. I don't think there's a year back there with lowest numbers. So we could be having the lowest number of offers accepted of any year since 1998. And that's pretty significant in my opinion. Here's your overbidding, 100.2%. And again, most of these recent years are above, but if you go back to 2011 and earlier, most of those years are same order of magnitude, but usually a little bit below 100%. Frequency of overbidding, 40%, clearly on the low side of recent years, but on the high side of those earlier years. And then your median price, you can see 1615. A year ago, you were at 1600. So we're almost exactly equal to what we were in November and October of 2021. A number of closings, 857. This number is going to be quite a bit higher because this is looking back in time, and the market does slow down quite a bit once you start getting into October. 857, you get down here back to 2007, 639. Will we get down that low? I don't think so. That's sort of the lagging. You have the lowest number of offers in the last 23 years or 25 years. And the number of closings will probably be the second lowest because the 7 would have been fewer closings. The market was slowing down. And now we are comparing apples and apples because we're only looking at September data. Because we're looking at September data, it's sort of in the rearview mirror. It looks like the top of my chart got cut off. I didn't notice that. So this is comparing September data, which is gathered on October the 6th. So I need 5 days of October data to get 35. And then you can come down and look at the same items. Here, the median price was 1650 versus 1600. And by 1600, it's 1.6 million. Your overbidding is reasonable. But again, 773 transactions. That's basically the lowest number, except for I think this is 2007. We're not doing well as far as volume of transactions, which impacts the real estate industry. That's how the industry gets paid, is by volume of transactions, not necessarily by the price of any one transaction. And with that, if you get on early, you'll see the slide. Don't worry, I'll be on if it's a Saturday morning. And I'm open for any questions. And here's the URLs again for you. And you can reach me any way you'd like down here. I prefer email contacts. Would love to have some more feedback on whether you like the new effort on all the slides that I'm trying to do, look at the bigger area, or if you want me to go back and focus on San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Not seeing any questions, I'll call it a week. Have a nice week, everybody. Bye for now.